Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's session by WEkEO, dedicated to the WEkEO Data Viewer. I'm Juliana Shapiro, your Training and Capacity Development Officer at Mercator Ocean International, and I will be guiding you through this session, joined by Daria Andrievskaya from Noveltis for this session today. So we will explore the WEkEO Data Viewer and learn how to use it to access, visualize, and analyze Copernicus Earth observation data. Through this live demonstration and hands-on exercises, we will cover both the light and experts versions of the viewer. So many of you have requested a more practical hands-on training session focused on the data viewer. So we hope this webinar will meet your expectations. And we encourage you to follow the demonstration and try the exercises alongside the speaker to make this easier for you. And we have included pauses throughout the session to guide you enough time to complete each exercise before we move on the next exercise. And so by the end of this session, you will be familiar with the main features of the WEkEO Data Viewer and feel more confident using it in your own project. So let's get started. Daria, the floor is yours. It's okay for you.
Hi, thank you. So, hello everyone, my name is Daria, and before we begin, let's go quickly over some house rules to make sure that you enjoy this session to the fullest. So first, please don't use the chat box on your right-hand side for questions. It is there only for greetings and for sharing links with participants throughout the session. And if you have a technical or content-related question, we invite you to use the dedicated Q&A session. And for that, yes, you have two options. Either you can scan this QR code on the slide, or you can click on the Q&A button at the top of your screen to ask questions to our speakers. We'll have a dedicated Q&A session after the presentation of our speaker today. And also while you're there, while you're on the tab of Q&A and polls, you can see that there are polls. So that's a quick survey about today's webinar. So feel free to fill it out anytime during the session or after the sessions. We will also send you an email after the webinar, reminding you to take part in this survey if you'd like to. And for the next, we also invite you to visit the guidelines and resources section on the event website. You will find there useful links to help center articles and several interesting and relevant parts of the WEkEO website and tools like use cases and additional tutorials. Now we are moving to the agenda. So for today, we have a short introduction to WEkEO, which will be presented to you by Juliana Shapiro, who is a Capacity Development Officer at Mercator Ocean International. And then we'll move to the main part of the session, is to the introduction to WEkEO Light Data Viewer by Guillaume Koenig, who is a product owner at Mercator Ocean International as well. And then Guillaume will continue with some exercises with the expert data viewer. Then we'll have short Q&A session when you can address all your questions to our speaker, and then we will have some closing remarks. So that's it, and let's start with the introduction to WEkEO and Copernicus. Juliana.
Yeah, so thank you, Daria, for the introduction. So I will start with a quick introduction about the Copernicus program. So Copernicus is the Earth observation component of the European Union space program. Its main goal is to monitor our planet and the environment. It provides the free and open access to a wide range of information services. And as you can see on this diagram, you have three main components: the space component with the Sentinel as satellites, the services component, and the in situ component, which provides complementary observation collected on the ground, at sea, and in the atmosphere. So the program includes 6 thematic services covering land monitoring, marine atmosphere, climate change, emergency, and security. And so these services relied on satellite observation combined with in situ data to support decision-making for public authorities, organizations, and of course, business worldwide. So Copernicus offers a vast amount of Earth observation data across its different services, and WEkEO brings all of this together in one single platform. So instead of navigating multiple portals, you can see that you can access original data from all Copernicus services and Sentinel missions directly in one place. So whether you're working with marine, land, atmosphere, or climate data, everything is available in a unified environment. And for your information, in January 2025, WEkEO launched a new website designed to provide a more intuitive and user-friendly experience, making navigation easier. So new features were also introduced to help you work with data more efficiently. And so through the WEkEO portal at WEkEO Copernicus EU, with this link, you can access Copernicus data and a wide range of tools and resources, which I will present you in the following slides. So getting started with WEkEO is very simple. You can already explore and browse Copernicus data without creating an account. And as data is free and open to everyone, however, by creating a free account, you unlock additional features, including a personal workspace, cloud computing tools, and advanced services for more complex analysis. So I will briefly introduce each section that you can see here, so you can better understand the different services offered by the WEkEO platform. So to view the data, WEkEO gives you access to over 400 datasets from Sentinel's missions and Copernicus services, missions and Copernicus. So to help you explore this data, WEkEO provides two complementary tools. The Expert Data Viewer, offering a detailed interface for dataset visualization, and the Light Data Viewer, designed for a quick and easy exploration. So of course, Guillaume will guide you through both versions in more detail during the live demonstration. And in addition of the viewer, you have the data catalogs that helps you search, filter, and discover datasets, as well as access detailed metadata to identify the most relevant products for your needs. If you want to work with the data, you can use the Jupyter catalog with over 100 ready-to-use notebooks developed across the Copernicus services. You can browse notebooks directly, clone them via GitLab to customize them for your needs, or load them in the WEkEO Jupyter Hub if you're a registered user. This growing collection of notebooks cover a range of topics and workflows to help you learn and apply best practices when working with the Copernicus data. And moreover, the WEkEO workspace, which was called the WEkEO Jupyter Hub before, is available to register users. So you have to sign in here, and provides a cloud-based environment to work directly with Copernicus data. So this workspace offers a full Jupyter Lab environment where you can explore data, perform basic analysis, and follow interactive workflows. So it's suitable for everyone, don't worry, from beginners to advanced users, and includes access to Jupyter Lab, RStudio, and the Xcube viewer, all without any local installation. So it's very useful. Now, if you want to share your data, you can use the WEkEO Drive, which is available to register users. So once signed in, you can securely store, manage, and share your work directly within the platform. The WEkEO Drive facilitates collaboration by allowing you to easily access and share files generated in the WEkEO workspace. And if you want to go deeper in your data, WEkEO also provides advanced tools designed to help you work more efficiently with large datasets and complex analysis. For example, one key component is the Harmonized Data Access, or called also HDA API, which gives you unified access to original Copernicus data across all the services. It allows you to automate data retrieval and efficiently handle large volumes of data without switching between the platforms. And WEkEO also integrates with plugins such as Climate Lab and EarthKit to simplify data handling in Python environments. So finally, you have the EO canvas, you can see here, allow you to preprocess data directly in the cloud, reducing data transfer and accelerating your analysis. And for users with more advanced processing needs, WEkEO provides scalable cloud computing resources to support both research and operational activities. For example, through the Innovation Lab, you can apply for free cloud uh, sorry, you can for free cloud prototype ideas, test your workflows, and develop research projects. And for larger scale application, WEkEO also offers a commercial cloud services and high performance computing called HPC solutions to handle complex and data intensive tasks. And last but not least, WEkEO offers dedicated expert support to help you make the most of the platform. So through the App Center, you can access detailed articles and guidance on a wide range of topics. But if you want to need further help, you can also contact our support team directly through the live chat available on the website, easily accessible at the bottom right corner of every page on the website. You have this icon, you can click on it and you will have this page. You can also meet Neo, our AI companion, which can answer your questions instantly and guide you through the platform. So that's it for the introduction to Copernicus and WEkEO. Several useful links have been shared directly in the chat, so don't hesitate to have a look at them. And I will now hand it over to Guillaume for the live demonstration. He will start with an introduction to the WEkEO Lite Data Viewer before we go through the exercises with the Expert Data Viewer. So Guillaume, the floor is yours. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah?
Oh,
Okay.
hello. You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. We're going to start by showing you the live viewer, then we will go, as said, a bit heavier on the Pro viewer and see how to download data with it. But the first step would be to actually access the live viewer. So for that, if you look into your favorite search engine, you will see that WEkEO is in the first result. We'll end up on this page, and you can go into services and tools to actually access the data viewer. So here, if you click on Start Exploring, you will directly end up on this page, which is the Lite Data Viewer. As you will see, you are not logged in yet. So you have this yellow banner on which we'll click to log in. And you would have this little guided tool that will appear on the screen. We'll skip it today because it will basically say the same thing as what we will be saying during this tutorial. So I'm skipping in. I'm logging in. For the login, you'll be redirected on a different page and just have to enter your information related to your WEkEO account. And yeah, all set for starting to play with the live viewer. So now you will see that you have a big map with some data here presented on the sea. You have different sections. So on the left, you have the data section themselves. They are organized by different categories. So you have all the marine data. So the live viewer, it is a collection of basically pre-selected data sets to help you explore Earth observation with a little knowledge. You cannot use it to actually download data, just visualize them. And so to make it easier, we've grouped the data by category. So the first is the marine category. So you have the temperature of the sea. You have the velocity, the currents, which is the eastward velocity. You have the ice coverage, and you have the biomass, which is the net primary production of biomass. You will see that each time I'm changing the variable, the title changes. So you have this title where you have the title of the variable being shown, its unit, and the date being shown right now. On this tab, you also see that you have a little door on the right of the variable name. You can click on it to access the Pro Data Viewer, but we'll not do it right now because we are still exploring the Lite Data Viewer. So on land, we have variable related to land. So we have the tree cover, it's on Euro. As you can see, you have a tree cover density map appearing. You have a urban atlas for the use of the land by different kind of urbanization, indicator for wet and dry snow. you have the total productivity, which is the productivity of the biomass or the vegetal biomass. So once again, in Europe. For the atmosphere, you have a lot of variables on the entire air column, so of different gases and components. So you have the ozone, you have the dust aerosol, you have the particulate matter, and the nitrogen dioxide. For the climate change, you will have the wind speed, temperature. Here it's not only on the sea, you will have the temperature on land as well. Be careful that, as you can see on the right, the temperature is shown in Kelvin, not in Celsius degrees. You have the total precipitation. Okay, let's get a bit faster on this one because I think you're starting to know the drill. So you also have the surface pressure. Nothing exceptional on this, it covers the whole globe. And then on the sentinel section, you have different data set derived from satellite images. So you have the NDVI, which is an indicator of vegetation density taken from sentinel images, OLCI, which are optical images to reduce data. It can be used to see clouds, as in here. LSSTR, which is sea temperature from infrared sensors. So you see it appearing. As those are satellite images, they do not always cover the entire globes because sometimes you have only some thoughts at a given time. And chlorophyll A from ocean color. Finally, you have a button to talk to an expert, but it basically opens you window to talk to our AI agent. And you have the settings that can be used to change a bit the appearance of the viewer. So you can decide to remove the base map. So you can see on the right, the satellite image that was used on the base map has now disappeared. And you can choose to remove the coastline and reference features being the hydrographic system and the country borders. You can change the length and the area units, but they are not used in the light viewers. So after that, you can also see that you have another section on your right, some indication. So you have a button that can be used to actually change the viewer, to go from the light data viewer to the expert data viewer. We'll not use it right now, we're still exploring. You have the color bar. This color bar is not present for every data set since some satellite data are actually satellite images and do not have a value associated. But for the ones that do have a value associated with them, you have this color bar and you can use this little gear button to actually change the opacity of the data, but also change the color map of the color bar. In the case of satellite images, like for the NDVI, you still have the gear button, but it can just be used to change the opacity. So if we decide to zoom in a bit to have access to some NDVI data, yeah, we see that we can play with this button to make them appear more strongly. Finally, the last thing that can be used for the navigation is the time bar that is here at the bottom. So you can click on the time bar to navigate through time and have different data available. And we use a data set that's not a satellite data set to have better coverage. Basically waiting for the tiles to appear. You can see that now that I've chosen marine data, you also have a new bar that appeared here on the side. It is the bar to choose data at different depths when it's appearing, so I can show you the full action. So you can use the time bar to navigate. You can see that the time bar is a grayed zone. This grayed zone is the zone in which data are available. So I can navigate through it with the charge fast enough. Okay. So we can navigate through time to change our data. You see that some zones are not grayed. Those are the zones for which data are not available. So it will basically not load anything. And for the depth, you can also change it. Okay, so for the main functionality that I wanted to show you, I can still show them to you in the expert data viewer. It will be more or less the same navigation on the time bar and on the depth. And there was a last functionality that with a button here on the bottom right to actually change the projection. So you can go from equatorial to polar north, polar south. Not all the data are available in the polar north and polar south projection because they are centered on the poles. And they are mainly used for the sea ice data fraction. But it seems that we're having an issue with the data loading today. So this is about all for the light data viewer. I'm really sorry for the tiles not loading, but you will still have the time to play with it yourself a bit later. And I propose that we move on to the expert data viewer and see if it behaves a bit better. So on the expert data viewer, so you can see that the interface is very close to one of the light viewer, but the expert viewer has more functionalities. So first, we have access to the full WEkEO catalog, to which we will show you how to access. And the second is that we actually have the possibility to download the data. So let's dive in, and first let's look how to access the catalog. So you can see that on the upper left corner, you have actually a window with two tabs. You have a tab called Layers that will show you all the layers that are shown on the viewer right now that can be used to actually explore the catalog, and a tab called Jobs, which is used to download the data. So far, we'll not be interested in jobs. So if we click on the little plus button on the layers, we then have a new window appearing, which has two columns, which is the window of the catalog. So you have a right column, which shows all the data sets. So the data sets are shown in always the same way. So you have a representative picture on the left, then you have the title of said data set. You have the dates of available data of the data sets, and then you have an extract of the abstract of the data set. You can see that on the top of the dataset presentation, you have two icons. You have either a barred eye or a number in a stack of sheets. A barred eye means that you cannot see the dataset on the viewer. You can still download it, have access to it, but you cannot preview it in the viewer. And if you have the stack of sheets, it means that it is viewable, and the number represents the number of layers or different variables associated with the dataset. Then the little star can be used to add the dataset to your favorites. You have a details button. By clicking on it, you have access to more information to the dataset. So you have an abstract, you have some metadata about the classification. So that's the ID, the satellite it was taken from, the kind of sensor. You can download the metadata in JSON and XML format. You have the originator center and access to raw metadata. Then on the left, you have the temporal extent, but also the geographical extent of the data. The button Add to Map is to make it viewable. It is not functional in this dataset. You have a second button that is Use Dataset or Select Layers. So the Use Dataset will open a window for downloading the data, and the Select Layers will open a window for selecting the layers that you want to show on the viewer. So here you see that we have a list of layers, each classified, that we can decide to add them to the map. So here on the left, you have the column for the filters to search through the dataset. So the first one is a free text in which you can enter a text to look for the dataset containing some information. You have a button to select only the viewable datasets. You have a featured option for some datasets that are more used or put in front compared to the others. You have your own favorite. You have a classification by Copernicus service. So you have the one for the climate, the atmosphere, the emergency, the land, and marine. You have the platform dataset for the different platform and satellite option. Select one. You have the sensor for classification by different satellite sensors. You have the geographical selection by area. You have time with future prediction for the future and past data, and tags to select some variables. Finally, you have the originating center, because you can have data from the CMWF, from the ITSA, from EUMETSAT, or from Market Ocean. And the data policy if you look for datasets having certain kind of policy about diffusion of data. What we can do, for example, we can add a dataset and try to visualize it. So here we would be interested in a real case application. So we'll use a dataset that we can use to see the effect of a fire that took place in the west of France in July 2022. That fire took place in a place called Le Dune du Pilat. And to see it, we'll use a dataset that shows the density of vegetation in the place. So to find it, we know it is related to leaf area. It is my first dataset here, the leaf area index. I will select the layers. I know what I want. I want the Sentinel-3 data, the effective leaf area index 300 meter. I can add it to the map. And now I can see that I have some data that have been added on the land. So I will decide to zoom in on my area of interest. And look for the traces of the fire. So I can see that now on my layers window, I have a new data set that's been added. So the effective leaf area index. So what we have is the title of the layer. We have the unit on the right. We have the date that is being shown on the viewer, as well as the time. We have the color bar that the light viewer was on the right. It's added in this window. And we have a few buttons. So we have the first button to subset and download, which we'll use later. The I button that we show the information shown by this graph, with information about the data set. We have the stack sheets to visualize other layer of the same data set. Oh, but I want to keep my effective leaf area index, so I will go back to it. And you have a gear button to personalize the visualization of the data set. So as in the light viewer, I can change the opacity and I can change the color bar. But here, my default color bar was working pretty well, so I'm going to keep it. So finally, you have two last buttons. You have a little bin to suppress the data set. We'll not use right now. And you have the little I to keep the layer on my window of layers, but not show it for a moment. So now, for example, if we want to see the fire that took place on the Dunipila, we can go in July of 2022. So here on my time bar. And I know that the fire took place around the 12th of July. So what I will do is select data from before 12th of July. On the 11th, for example. Okay, sorry, we had a little issue for a moment. So let's go back to our 11th of July of 2022. As you can see, we have a lot of greenish, yellowish value. So in this zone, this is where the fire took place. And if you look at the color bar, we see that those greenish, yellowish value represent high value of density of leaves. And we expect that if there's a fire, there's going to be less density of leaf after because, well, the trees are burnt. So if we look for a date after the 12th of July, something like the 17th, for example, we will see when it's loaded that we already see in the tile that's partly loaded that the values are shifting toward the blues. Yeah, because we see the trace of the fire. Now the leaf area index has gone down because of the fire. Now, I will ask you to actually do an exercise to open the expert viewer yourself and visualize some data set. So for that, I will have a little PowerPoint with the instruction for the exercise. If you see it on my screen. So what I will ask you to do is to open the expert data viewer, open the catalog, and find the following data sets. I want a Sentinel-2 dataset with the variable NDVI as a layer. That will be used to see the fire in another way. I want you to open the OLCI level 1 full resolution Sentinel-3. You add it as a layer and you hide it. We'll use it later. Then you open the ERA 5 hourly data on single levels from 1940 to present, and you add the variable total precipitation as a layer and you hide it. And then normally you should still have the seawater salinity layer because it is the default one when you open the expert data viewer. I want you to remove it. So I know the names are very long, but that will help you because several data sets are named that are pretty close to one another. So I will leave you 5 minutes to do this. So at 10:42, we'll do the correction. Okay, so let's see for the correction. So we go back to our viewer and see that we have a small issue of login. So the first thing we wanted to do was to add the NDVI data. So for that, one way to do it was actually to go for Sentinel-2 in our list of platform. See that we have only one data set. Click on Select Layers, and here we will have NDVI. We add it to the map, and since we have it right now, we can actually, if it loads, use it to visualize the fire by another way. So let's wait for it. We see one of the tiles here on the right. So they appear as greenish because they represent the vegetation index. So dark green values represent dense vegetation, and light green values represent lighter vegetation. So if we go back to our area of interest and select the 11th of July, where we should have data, okay, normally what you should be seeing, because it seems to not be loading, because I guess you're all using the viewer and taking my tiles, you should have here on the 11th a big dark green region in a bit of tones of this guy. And then by going to the 17th of July, a bit later, you should have new tiles passing here. And here you would have like lighter greens because of the fire having passed. It seems that today we're experiencing some times flooding the tiles. So you can see we nearly have the good one, but it stops right where we want it to go. So for following with the correction, another layer that we wanted was the OLCI level 1B full resolution. So for this one, we saw that it was in Sentinel-3. So we go back to our catalog window. We unclick the Sentinel-2 to have access to all the variables. And we choose Sentinel-3 in the platform. Here we see that we have way more data. So to give a first filter, we can actually select only the viewable ones. And then here we have OLCI level 1B full resolution. See that the button gives add to map because there's only one layer in this data set. We click on it. And here we see the tiles appearing right away. So if we unzoom a bit, we start to see the clouds of the optical satellite image. So, but we said that we would hide it, so I'm hiding it. And finally, we wanted the ERA 5 hourly data. So for that, what we do is that we unclick Sentinel-3, we can keep viewable open, and we go for C2S climate, because total precipitation are related to climate, and we go looking for the ERA 5. So here you see that we have several ERA 5 data, but we want the one on single levels from 1940. So it would be this data set. Select the layers. We have to look a bit, and we have total precipitation. You can add it to the map and see that the layer appears right away. We also to hide it, so we hide it. And finally, to finish the exercise, we remove the seawater salinity. So that was it for the first exercise. And now that we've seen how to look for data in the catalog, we will see how to customize the appearance a bit. So we see that we have some tools on the lower right part of the viewer. So we still have the equatorial button to change the projection. So we can use it once again to go for polar north or polar south projection. It will only work for some data set. As you can see here for the LCI and the Sentinel-2 MSI, we have to change projection to see it on the map. Let's go back to our equatorial projection into our zone of interest. We have the point button, which gives you the possibility to select a point on the map, it will give you its location. There is a button to put it into your copy and paste memory. And if you have some layers selected that have time series, which are most of the layer except for the satellite images, it will load the time series associated. Sometimes it takes some time as data have to be fetched. But here, if we try to reload it, for example, you see that one of the time series is actually loading. So we have the time series for the effectively area index. Another button is the measure button. So to use it, you click on two parts of the map, and then you have the position of the two parts on the map with some button to copy those position. You also have here an indication of the distance between the 2 points, and you can click on this distance to change the units. So available units are kilometers, miles, nautical miles. Then you have the set AOI button. AOI is for area of interest. So to use it, you select 1 point, second point, it draws a rectangle, well, with the first point on the upper left corner and the second point on the lower right corner. It gives you the location of the 2 points. Again, you can select those locations with the button. And you also have the area encompassed by the zone. So it can be in square kilometers. By clicking, you change the unit. It can be in hectares, or it can be in square miles. This AOI function is useful because it allows you to select a zone in which to download the data. But we'll do it a bit later. Then you have the help button that will redirect you to the help center if you need to talk with one of the person of our user support. We'll show that later. And then you have the setting button. So on the setting, you have the same setting as in the live viewer. So you have the base map in which you can add or remove the satellite image used as base map. And the coastline reference features, which allows you to remove the hydrographic network and the country boundaries. You can also change the default units for the length and for the area. Finally, if you are connected, you have a last button appearing that is Save Preset. So to show you how to use this button, I will need to add some feature on the map, because the use of this button is to save the window of the viewer as you see in it. So it will keep all the layers open. It will keep your date, your depth is this one, all the points, the measures, and the AOI that you've set, and gives you a link that you can actually share to work on the same viewer with someone. So to make it work, what you do is that you click on Save Preset, you give it a name, like WEkEO Training Preset. You save it. And then to access it, as it's saying, you have to go to your dashboard. So I go back to my dashboard. And here we can see that in my data viewer, in my favorite viewer presets, on the top left, I have WEkEO Training Preset. And if I open it in a new tab, I have exactly the viewer as I left it on the same zone with the same time series and point selected, and I don't even have to be logged in to access it. So with all this information, we will enter the second practical session in which you will use mostly the personalization of the dataset, so the gear button in configure layer, to try and visualize the Boris storm that took place in Europe on the 15th of December 2024. So you will use the total precipitation layer and the OLCI level 1B layer to try and see the clouds and the precipitation that day. So for that, I will give you more precise instruction that I will share on the screen right now. What I will ask you to do precisely is to hide the layer Sentinel-2 and effectively area index if you have not hidden them already. Show the layers that should have been hidden of OLCI, Sentinel-3, and total precipitation. Select the 15th of September 2024 on the time bar and go over Europe. and then change the color map of total precipitation and adjust the opacity to visualize both the cloud layer of OLCI and the total precipitation correctly. So I will leave you 5 minutes to do that. So I will show you the correction at 10:56. Okay, let's go to the correction. And then I've seen that you had some question about the WMS layer and how to get some layer. So, yeah. So let's do the correction, and then we will see how to get the total precipitation again. So first we want to hide the Sentinel-2 layer and the effective leaf area index layer, which is already hidden, but just by clicking this hide button. So now what we want to show is the OLCI level 1B layer and the total precipitation layer. Now we want to go to the selected date. So we know that our storm took place on the 15th of September, 2024. So on my time bar, I will select 2024, get as close as I can to the 15th of September. And then up to get a better resolution, I can zoom in on the time bar. For the ones that have difficulties with zooming, don't have a mouse like me, what you do is that you use your 2 fingers on the touchpad and you simply roll your fingers towards you. At least this is what I'm doing. I really hope it works on your side as well. And to unzoom, you simply take your 2 fingers and you roll them away from you. So it is the same for the map. So I put my mouse on the map and I roll the 2 finger away from me to unzoom and close to me to zoom if I have a touchpad. So let's select the 15th of September, 18 October, pam, pam, pam. Okay, perfect. So now, as we can see, we have the OLC images of the storm with the clouds, and we have the total precipitation which are loading, which are the purplish tiles. And on the storm side, you see that we have yellow values for the high precipitation areas. If I unzoom to see the whole of Europe, now we can see that the total precipitation is basically hiding the OLC image. So to correct that, what we do is that we go into the configure layer and we can change the opacity. And here we see that the clouds are appearing. The problem is that we have this purple haze, which is not the most practical to see. So what we can do is choose a different color map, and ideally it would be a color map that has a lighter color on the lower values, so that this purple haze become less transparent, more transparent. So I can go for this color map, the tempo, because it's basically white, the lowest value. And here we see the clouds here with at the limits of the clouds of precipitation front. And the same thing here with the tempest. We see that at the limits of the clouds, we have a precipitation front on Eastern Europe. So for the person that was asking me how to access the total precipitation layer, let's do it again. We go into the catalog, and we know that our total precipitation was part of it's part of what is considered the climate variables. Because it was the same as in the light viewer. A lot of the things that are related to physics of the atmosphere are in climate. So we will click on climate. And most of the climate data are not viewable. So we want the viewable. For that, click on viewable index. And then we were looking for the Area 5 datasets, but not anyone, because as you can see, there's a lot of different Area 5 datasets. And we wanted the hourly data on single levels from 1940. So I select the layer. And here you have, well, 2 different choices. You have to look a bit through it. It's because I know the layers, so I knew exactly where it was. But if it's your first time, you have to dig a bit into them. And then you have the total precipitation, and you can add it to the map. So that was the correction for the exercise. And now we can go on the part of the downloading of data. So for that, what we will do is actually try and download the data for the NDVI in the vegetation index for our fire on the Dundee. So for that, what we will do is actually first draw an area of interest that covers the Dundee. So for that, I use my button on the lower right corner. And then when it is done, I can click the download button on the layer corresponding to the data I want to download. Here I will have a little form opening. The form will depend on the dataset you want to download. And the form will not be relative to the layer, but to the dataset the layer belongs to. So if I open the same form for MoLCI, I will have different fields to fill. But here we were saying we wanted the Sentinel-2 MSI and DVI data. So first I have the bounding box field to fill. I can use the fact that I have an AOI and just click on copy AOI from map. It fills it automatically. Now, in my form, I have two kind of fields. I have the one without asterisk, so they're not necessary to download the data, and the one with asterisks that are mandatory. As a general rule of thumb, if you're using the viewer for the first time or you don't really know the data set, it's better not to fill the fields that you don't have to. So here we will fill the start date and end date because we more or less know what we want. We know that we want data from before the fire to after the fire and for a few days. So we can do a date selection in July 2022. I can click here to change the year. And so for my last date, I would like the 17th, because it's what we were doing. And for my start date, we wanted the 11th, 2022. So there's and 11th of July 2022. So here the product type, we don't know anything about that. The processing level is the same thing, serial ID, and all those fields that we don't know about, they don't have an asterisk, so we do not fill them. So here at the bottom of our form, we have two buttons. We have a show API request that will show you how to download, well, give you a query to download the data via the HDA. We will show you how to do that a bit later in the training. And you have the request data. When you click request data, it will send a request to our backend. And when it's done, it opens in the jobs tab. So here you see I have one job. So it has a new section that has three buttons, a coding button that will show the API request that you can use in the HDA to retrieve exactly the same data, a trash can button to delete the job, and finally an open folder with a green dot to see that the data have been made accessible. So you sometimes run into some data broker error. There's no big stress. When you have any kind of error, just refresh the page. Here, I have to log in again to access my jobs and go back. And now we can see that I have 22 files associated with the data I want to retrieve. And to download one of them, I click on order. The data will be made available. So sometimes you will have a lot of different files for some given data sets. So here we can show as many as 200 on the same page. If you want more than 200, you will have to use the HDA data downloader. And generally for queries with a lot of files, it's more practical to use HDA. So here, let's click and we see that the download is starting. So it's a 1 GB download, so I can stop it now. But that shows you the whole walkthrough. So now I will give you another practical exercise when I will ask you to actually try and download data for the storm Boris over the northern Austria region. So Once again, I will give you more precise instruction. Show slide. So let's present and go. So here, what I want you to do is to get the total precipitation over a small area for the 15th of September 2024. So for me, a small area was Northern Austria. You can choose another place in Europe if you want. You will have some mandatory fields to fill in the form. So for product type, I want you to enter reanalysis. For data format, I want you to enter GRIB. For the download format, I want you to enter zip. If you have several files associated with the query, you download only the first one of them. You don't have to try and get all of them. And I will leave you 5 minutes for this one. So I will show you the correction at 11:11. Okay, let's go for the correction. So what we wanted to do was to get a query for the total precipitation for the 15th of September above Northern Austria. So the first thing we can do is position ourselves at the right place and the right date. So we see on the time bar that in my case, I am already in the right place. And for the right place, I have to know where Northern Austria here. So more or less know that it's in the Alp region around here. And then I can draw an arrow around it. Then what I can do is click the subset and download button on my total precipitation section. I have a form opening. So as I said, I wanted a product type reanalysis. Then I had to select the variable because as I said, the form is linked to the data set, not to the layer itself. So I have to reselect the layer. And for that, I can be helped by typing into the form. For the year, it's 2024. The month, September. The day, we said the 15th. And for the time, it was not really important. So I could have chosen any time, but another solution that's available in certain cases to click on select all. And now for the bounding box, I simply click AI for map and I choose my data format GRIB and my download format zip. I request the data. Now I will see that in my job tab, I have a new section opened for the total precipitation. I open it. I see that I have only one file, can order. And as for the NDVI, after a while, it will simply be available with a button for the download and I will click on the download. So now that we've seen that, let's see another method to actually download the data. So what you can do is also use the HDA. So for that, you will have a lot of help in our help center that's full of articles. And notably, there's one article that directly gives you a notebook that you can reuse in your computing space given by WEkEO. So what we will do is first go to the help center, show you the article. Second, access your computing space in WEkEO so that you see how to do it, how to transfer the notebook to there, and then how to use a query to download the data from there. So first, you can access the help center by clicking help and support, and then visit our help center. So here you have access to help center with all the articles. And the articles that interest me is how to download data with the HDA. So you see that there are different articles. It would be the one called How to Download WEkEO Data with the HDA API in Jupyter. We'll give you the link fast. So in this article that you can read, but that we'll skip here, they explain to you how to connect to your computing resources and how to actually download data, but that's exactly what I'm going to show you. So I will go directly to download the notebook. Click here again on download. and it will download the notebook, you see, that I can use directly to get the data. So now I have to access my computing power. So I go back to my Kubernetes. I have to sign in again if you're not signed in already to have access to my dashboard. So to my WEkEO. And here in my WEkEO workspace, I can click on open. So here I'm automatically logged in. If it is not the case, because sometimes you are not, I can stop my server. So normally I should log in, launch a server, and then I would have the choice between different servers. You would ask for Earth observation tools. Okay, let's see on this other tab. So normally after clicking to access your computing resources, you should have this window for signing in with OAuth 2.0. So now that your server started, normally you should have a server selection, but it was pre-selected for me. You should have this Jupyter Lab interface. Here you can finally add the notebook that you downloaded before. So there are two solutions. Either you select it with this button and you will be able to browse it on your computer, or you can simply drag and drop it. So I go into my downloads, which you can see it is here, and I simply drag and drop it to this section. Now I can open it by double clicking. And as you can see, it's a pretty easy notebook. So you just have 4 cells to run. So a cell to log in for WEkEO. So here to log in, you will have to enter your WEkEO username and your password. I will not have to do it here myself because I configured the computer before. So let's run this cell. Then here you can copy and paste the query that you would have in the viewer. So you have a pre-selected query. So I can keep this one to show you before the exercise. And then I will go back to the viewer to select the query and put it here. Then once the query is started, you can do the same. So select some matches. So we will interrogate the backend to see if some files actually fit the description of what we need. And in matches, what we'll have is the list of files that actually fit our description. So here we have one file with a volume of 76 kilobytes. And then to download it, we use matches.download. If we wanted to limit the number of files to download, we can use brackets and Python selection. So for example, just for the first file, I can use bracket 0 and download the first file. Here it wouldn't make any sense because I have only one file. And you can see that here we have instructed the download directory, so it will be in data. So I will launch a download. And here in data, when the download is done, my .zip file should appear. So since it can take a minute, I will reopen my viewer, show you how to get the query, just in case you've forgotten a bit, and then show you how to run this other query. So now you see it's been downloaded, so it should appear here shortly. Yep, you see my file has appeared just now. So let's go back to our viewer. Services and tools, data viewer. I'm logging in. So if we wanted to, for example, re-download our total precipitation for the job we had passed, we could go back to the Jobs tab, use the button for the API request, and here we would have the query we would have to put into the notebook. So I click on copy to have it. I go back to my notebook. I select my former query, and I replace it by the new one. It's very long because of formatting. And now I don't have to rerun the notebook from the start because I already have my login info. I simply rerun the cell of the query, rerun the cell of the matches, because now the query is going to be different, and I will rerun the download. So if this is more or less clear for you, what we will do now is have a little time to have you manipulate it and try to play with it. So I've prepared a fourth exercise. Yeah. Oh. So for the last practical session of this training, what I will ask you to do is to download data via the HT in Python for the OLCI Sentinel-3 dataset. So it should be the same area as before. And by as before, we mean the Northern Austria area that you've used in the last exercise. The time range is going to be a bit different. You're going to be from the 10th to the 20th of September 2024. You copy the HDA query. So for this, just in case you've forgotten, you fill the entire form as if you were going to download in the viewer. But then at the end, instead of clicking the button to download the viewer, you click on the other button to get the query. So once you have this HDA query, you can get the notebook from the Help Center article, drag and drop the notebook into your WEkEO Jupyter Lab workspace, run the first step of identification, pass your query to replace the existing one, then click on the step for the matches, and then click on the step for download. And normally it should be slightly under 20 gigabytes. This is something important, and WEkEO will provide you with 20 gigabytes of space for downloading. And it is erased regularly, so you really have to download it locally in your Jupyter Lab, and then click on download to retrieve it on your computer. We'll show you how to do that after the exercise. And if you have too many files, you can change it and download a new first file. So I will leave you 15 minutes to do that. Don't hesitate to ask any question. And well, we'll be back at 11:40 for the correction. Okay, let's go for the correction. So a lot of the steps that you have to do were already done on my side. And since we have some technical difficulties, I don't wish to retry them. So what we will do is show you to generate the query for the OLCI Sentinel-3 dataset for the same area as before. So I go back onto my viewer, and here I can close this form by clicking on the subsetting button. So I said that I wanted my same area in Northern Austria as before. So I choose it with an AOI. Here we have an AOI covering Northern Austria. And what I do is click on subset and download for the OLCI level 1B full resolution Sentinel-3. I copy AOI from map to get the bounding box. I choose a start date that is now the 10th of September 2024. So in July, August, September, the 10th. And here I move to 2024. September 20th. And here, instead of clicking on request data, I click on show API request, have the query. I can copy the query. And then I go back into my Jupyter Lab. Once again, I am already logged in. So I don't need to rerun the first cell. So I just modify the second. I've removed former query and put the new one. Rerun that. Rerun the matches cell. Then for the matches are available, I can simply run the last cell. And if I wanted to download only one of the files, because as we can see in the results, I got 23 files, I would change this line, and in matches, I would put bracket the number of the file that I'm interested in. I can explore the file by simply tapping by looking into the matches. So now, once I've downloaded the file here into the Jupyter Lab, I can go onto my file explorer, do a right click on one of them, and then click on download to download it on my computer. So that that was all for how to download data with WEkEO. So the last thing I wanted to show you was the help button that I promised for the end. So you have an help widget that will open you a discussion with our AI agent. Yeah. So you also have the help button to open the discussion with the AI agent. You can ask him to talk with a human, for someone from our user support. And then by going back, you have this window for the help center. So you have a home where you have some possibility to search for articles into the help center. You have a button to ask our AI agent or our team for some help. And then you have some news about, well, new features and training. So if you want to go into your formal conversation, you can go in messages. You have a help tab if you want to get more in detail into the help center, and a news tab if you want to see the news into a bigger format. So that was all for me, and I will leave the floor for the Q&A session.
Thank you, Guillaume, for this presentation. We are really sorry about all the technical issues, and I will share my screen to see the questions that we already received. Up. Now you can see my screen. I hope. Yeah. I will let the floor. Can you hear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see the questions. Yeah. So the first question is it possible to download many files at the same time, not only one by one? Thanks a lot. Guillaume, are you still there?
Yes, I am. Sorry for that. I was taking a sip. Yeah, it's possible. So I've shown you with the HDA, you actually by default download all the files. So you select your query, you put it into your notebook in the Jupyter Lab, and you will automatically download all the files associated with your query.
Okay, thank you. For the next question is how much more could the data viewer backend infrastructure improve in the future?
We are working actively on it. So it's something that we're scaling every day, and we're also using those sessions as test sessions.
Okay. I think we lost connection with Juliana, so we don't have the questions available on the screen. She's back. I guess I will just read another question. So is it possible to select a date by providing a date numerically instead of using the time slider?
On the viewer, up to my knowledge, it's not possible.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, yeah, that was this question. Yeah, and the next one is actually the same one to manually set the date of a layer of a data set. Yeah, so only through the time bar, right? Right.
Yeah, but we'll be thinking about adding this feature if it's a need.
Okay. It is also possible to download data via HDA in R.
I am unsure about that. I will have to come back and double check.
Okay. This next one. I'm looking for error 5 total precipitation. I can find variable in the research browser pad. Can you help me retrieve the data sets?
Yeah, I can very quickly show that if you have the time.
Or maybe just some general instructions. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how much
generally,
time we have, Juliana.
generally the error 5 you would have several data sets associated with it. So you have to be careful to use the good one, which is a single level one from 1940. And total precipitation, they are classified into climate data. So with this information, you should be able to retrieve it.
Yeah, and again, yeah, if there's some difficulties for the users, we can ask help in a user support section. So for next question, is it possible to view live data? So like data from today or last few hours?
To my knowledge, we do not have any data sets that are in the last few hours. This being said, we have prediction, and you can ask the user support for more precise information about that.
Okay. Next, in a Jupyter notebook, can we directly import machine learning models and do EDA directly?
I have never done that myself. You should ask the user support. They will be able to answer that.
Okay. We have many questions. So in some filters, I saw that the eye icon, the button to show the layer on map, was crossed, and you can't view the layer on the map. Why is that?
It's because the data provider do not provide the WMTS tiles, and they cannot be shown on the map.
Okay. Thank you. Will you share the slides and recording of the session? I missed part of it. So that's a question also for us. Yes, we will share the slides and the recording. All the information will be available on the website of webinar of event, and we will also send you an email with reminder to go and check it. So yeah, it will all be online.
Thank you both. Sorry for the technical issues. I will just share the last presentation. Okay, so sorry for the technical issues. So before we close, please remember that you can have the replays and the polls on the event website through the menu at the top right page of your website. And then we will send you an email to let you know when the replay is available and a link to the polls for today's webinar. So you will also receive a certificate of attendance after the session. And if you like to continue exploring WEkEO after today's sessions, I encourage you to visit our YouTube channel, where you find a wide range of webinar and training sessions from the past few years, covering various Earth observation topics, all freely available. And so it's a great way to deepen your knowledge at your own pace and explore use cases that match your interests. You can also discover all the WEkEO events, both incoming and past, through the event tabs in the top right menu of the website, where you can open any page for details and visitation. So thank you all for joining today's session, and we hope you found the webinar useful and that you now feel more confident using the WEkEO Data Viewer and exploring the Copernicus data. And if you enjoyed this session, don't hesitate to share it with your colleagues or on social medias to help spread the word about WEkEO. And we look forward to seeing you again later this autumn for our next training event on 13 and 15 October 2026. So have a great rest of your day, and thank you once again for joining us. Bye. Bye, everyone.